This drip all on my body, soaking wet the Sani. Looking like a walking lick, yeah, you can tell I'm grinding. Rolling back was full of loud, I can't hear nobody.
What's up, fuckers? Episode 19, The Beer Latte Show. I'm Steve.
I'm Nick.
Danielle.
So today we have Al Cooley. Al, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I know you're the host of Ghost in the Valley podcast. How's that working out for you?
Awesome. I've been doing it over a year now. I just totally love doing the podcasting part of it. You know, I actually, the Ghost in the Valley is I did a documentary back in 1998, and it was called Ghost of the Valley. So and the Valley was my area. You know, northeastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania. So I said, I started a podcast. Why not do the podcast on the same thing as a documentary? And a valley basically being everybody's valley. I mean, from Australia to New York to wherever.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Now, is that something we can find out there on the internet or that documentary?
No, I don't have it out there. I've been thinking about doing it and how to do it. Because when I sold the video, I sold quite a few copies from VHS, if you remember VHS tape.
Wow.
To DVD, and now I'm trying to put on MP4 so I could just stream it.
No, okay.
What did it primarily talk about? Anything specific or just the generality of ghosts and what have you?
It was a video, 6 small stories on different sections of like Ohio and PA, and I was asking for true ghost stories. So then I would travel to wherever to collect information and videotape the story. So I actually hired some actors out of Youngstown, Ohio, through an agency, and it was all professionally done. And I entered the film in Cleveland Film Festival, Youngstown Film Festival, Columbus, and I came in pretty good. I mean, one of them I came in second place.
Oh, wow.
And I was surprised, because there was a lot of good submissions, and I was asking for true ghost stories, and it's hard to do when almost 80% of my calls were not really ghost related or spirit related. It was, if you heard something in your basement, I'd go downstairs and it's basically the water pipes banging, or, it was something I was always defunct on the story. But, 20% that was there it was there.
So were those included as well, the ones that you kind of debunked?
No, I didn't. I just put the ones that were, I wish I would have, and some of them called me out and they didn't want it on video. They just wanted to prove that they weren't crazy, I guess, And so before I started that, I went to our priest in our church and I said, this is what I'm doing. So basically I was doing it around Halloween to make some money, and not to make fun of anything, because I had a ghost experience myself and when I was a kid, but when I started it out, I figured, why not, and the priest said, which surprised me, was, it's out there, so be careful. So, there's a thin line between a ghost and a demon,
Right.
Yeah, that's a weird response. I don't know how, I would have been off put from that response. I would have like, what, changed my mind.
No, I almost would expect that a priest would say something like that.
I was trying to get him to say something about an exorcism or something, and because I heard he just got back from doing an exorcism from a friend of mine, and I was leading him in that direction, but he just wasn't. He couldn't talk about it or wouldn't talk about it.
Huh.
That's the scariest shit when you hear like a priest has done an exorcism like that. That's when shit gets real. Like that scares me.
It gets really real,
That really scares me.
Well, I was called to a house, and this one was not on the documentary, and I wish it was. I was called to the house, and I had my partner with me, and she claimed that there was evil happenings inside the house. So when I got there, that was some. You want to talk about some fucked up shit? That was some shit, going into the house, and then there was nothing in the house, but it's just a table and a chair, and she was standing like back in a corner, like Satan or something, And all of a sudden, she said there was pounding from the basement coming, like somebody's hitting the floor from underneath with a sledgehammer, and your feet are vibrating from this pounding.
What the hell?
Right. So I sent my partner down to, just check
That's
out.
a smart
You didn't
move.
want to do it.
And he came up, he goes, and he's about 6'8", 380 pounds. And he's a
Oh,
big
shit, I would have
dude.
sent them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Good
like, I'll go
choice.
down. Right. I'll go down there, And he came up, so there's nothing down there, man. Then it happened again, and then all of a sudden the front door shut, the back door shut, and the window slammed down.
The
And
hell?
she says, yeah. And she, all of a sudden, she's had her head like standing in a weird, really weird position and just said, he's here and he doesn't like you, And my partner goes, that's it, we're out,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that person lived in that house?
That person lived in that house, right? But when she called me, she wasn't nowhere. She didn't sound like she did when I got there, like she had totally was possessed or something when I got there. And you can feel something when you're in that type of situation. You can actually feel the demonistic shit in the air. I mean, you can feel it.
That's crazy. You stayed longer than I would have.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just quiet. I probably went on maybe 50 and there's only 6 in the video, but I probably went on about 50 calls, 50 different sites.
My
Yeah, that's
God.
crazy. If I ever saw like the doors closed and windows shut down, I don't know what I'd do.
Yeah, that's real.
And I did that my first, I can't remember which one it was, but I just did an interview with a gentleman who runs I think it's out of Minnesota. He ran a paranormal investigation, and he does do exorcisms. And he was telling me about one, and he's supposed to send me the video of it. But, they go into a room and they do the whole prayer thing and try to remove and it was a room, it wasn't a person, but the room was possessed or, with the devil. And there's 3 of them in there, and he says and everybody wears a medicine bag to protect their body from any type of blow. So he's holding the cross. His partner is doing the prayer reading, and the other person's holding the equipment, the video and audio, and the meters. And all of a sudden, a bolt of light just came and hit the cross he's holding, and it blew the medicine bag apart on his buddy's that's doing the reading, knocked him to the ground, and the cross flew across. It knocked the rivets that was holding Jesus to the cross. It knocked the rivets out of the wood.
Wow.
And they never did find the Jesus, the crucifix in the room.
What?
Just a wooden part of the cross. So it's like, he said it took him almost, a couple hours to clean the room. But they did, But that was the first one that was been on the show that actually would talk about an exorcism.
And they caught that on video?
He has it on video, yeah. I mean, and that's what's really cool about my podcast is, because paranormal touches everything, as far as seances, spirits, ghosts, demons, UFOs, Bigfoot. I mean, you name it, and I've got calls on it. My recent podcast episode was on the recent UFOs that were sighted, and I wish I would have held off for a few more weeks because now the Pentagon and the State Department just declassified a lot of documents, and what was weird about that episode was I got a call from an F-18 Hornet fighter pilot from the Navy who listened to the podcast. I was, oh, wow, cool. That somebody's out there listening.
I got a listener.
Yeah, right. And he enjoyed the podcast a lot, and he said, you left out a couple of things, I says, well, I have to be careful. And he named what I left out. I have to be careful because, I've already had like 4 of my episodes on UFOs taken down, and I put it back up and they're taken down. I put them back up. Well, they're still up right now, I think, but
Not anymore.
But they don't give you an explanation as to why.
well, because and this happened over my county. I live in Trumbull County, Ohio. And in 1994, there were a series of UFOs spotted over our county. Now, we had 10, and these are facts. You can go on YouTube and check out UFOs over Trumbull County, and it's on there. And it was on the Art Bell show, Coast to Coast. And that night, I can remember that night like it was yesterday because I was working, and a coworker came into work and he said, "Did anybody see a UFO flying down Route 11 like 35 miles an hour?" And we all, and I was, "Yeah, right, man. We use the bar before you come to work, you know?" And so nobody really believed him, you know, and he was serious, man. And then the few days later, I have a friend of mine who is in law enforcement, and he was in one of the departments that was chasing these things. Now you have 10 different law enforcement departments between the sheriff, the city police, the county police, the state patrol chasing these things. Over 20 officers, and yet they're told it's a weather balloon.
Come on.
Why is that always the answer?
Yeah.
You know, and this is what really pisses me off is when, you know, the cover-ups come in. You know, it like he was telling me, have you ever seen something travel 35 miles an hour and then it's gone in a blink of an eye? I mean, it just goes straight up out of space. I mean, in a blink of an eye. And then and one of the officers, if you watch the documentary, it's on YouTube. The one officer the UFO is right over his car, and all the power in his car went out. You know, and the same thing with my buddy that on the police department at the time. Same thing. The light. He said all the electronics went out, radio signals went out, his to the dispatch center went out, and yet they were called in the next day after they all filled their reports out. Like they didn't know what it was. It's UFO, but they didn't know what it was, and they were told by the State Department that that they're all to put it was a weather balloon. And that's the same thing with the pilot. The pilot I just talked to recently from the Navy. He says, "Now this thing, you explain to me if the thing is 80,000 feet up and it goes down at 6,000 miles an hour to the right above the ocean and stops 50 feet above the water. No human can survive that." You know, and then he says, we're the best pilots around, you know, and we're up there. Actually, we were called in to protect the Blue Angels. The Blue Angels were doing a maneuver for an air show, and these things came out of nowhere. So they were called in basically to help out the Blue Angels. And he says, looking back on it now, he says they were playing with us. You know, how do you lock on a heat-seeking missile on something that there's no heat off of? There's no exhaust, there's no plume. You know, so stuff like that gets you thinking that what's out there and what they cover up, and they don't want you to know. And his opinion is it's something that they can't control, you know, because it's far more superior than what they have.
Right. So how do you even explain that to the masses of people?
Right. So I plan on doing like a follow-up on that one. So just because I thought he was very, very interesting. He wouldn't let me use his name. Yeah,
Wonder why.
and made sure that I wasn't recording. I could use whatever we talked about, but I couldn't use his name or record the conversation.
Oh man, that stinks. Could have made him like have a Darth Vader voice or something,
Mm-hmm.
or deep throat
But
or something.
the weird thing is, like, how did you get my number?
Oh
You know, to call me.
yeah.
You know, he says, well, he works for the State Department now. And I was like, you know, well, he says that getting your number is not a problem. So I was okay.
Jeez.
Well, I guess that makes sense.
If they want to find you, they will.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, the paranormal goes in a big range. You know.
And today is brought to you by Tuckahoe Brewing. We have a few beers to try from them. First up is what they are calling the new old school IPA, 6.5% alcohol.
I like the smell, and I think, of course, now we all know that I like IPAs. It's okay.
Not your favorite, just okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like other IPAs. It has a crisp taste, a little citrusy, but nothing powerful.
It's not as fruity as I tend to like.
Yeah.
More on the hoppy side, which isn't bad.
Almost would call it a beginner IPA.
Yeah, it could be. Danielle, on 1 to 10, where would you rate it?
I would go with solid 6.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with the 6. Nick, on 1 to 10 hop scale, where are you throwing it?
I'm at a 6.9.
Okay. So I tend to like something slightly fruitier, unless it's more of a heavy alcohol IPA. With that being said, it's going to land like a 6-7 for me.
Okay.
It's a decent IPA. It's not my favorite, but I'm happy with it still. Then up next, we have the World Collaboration Altogether beer from them. Now, this smells super fruity
Yeah. That was the first thing I was like, this has a strong smell to it.
and a super fruity taste.
Yeah.
It is also 6.5%, and this is a much, 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 much fruitier IPA.
I would also say it's smoother too.
Yeah, it is. It's easier to go down. It's like crushable.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a good cause too. I feel like it's an amazing cause.
Right, a portion of the proceeds of the sales of these, those beers from them at Tuckahoe and everyone else that's doing it, is going towards hospitality workers like restaurants or healthcare or breweries and so on and so forth.
Right. So they all come together, and that's just a great cause, and it's a great beer.
How do you feel about it, Nick?
I'm gonna my 1 to 10. I'm looking at a 7.7 for this.
Wow, he likes it a lot.
Yeah, it's real smooth and just it's pretty delicious.
I'd say a 7.6 too.
Wow, going high too.
Yeah.
And I was going to land somewhere around 7.5. It's a strong, strong, flavorful IPA.
Yeah.
Like super fruity. I like it a lot. And then last up for this episode from them, we have a double IPA, what they're calling Loop. There it is.
Loop. There it is.
And that is coming at an 8.1. Something that's going to get you fucked up rather quickly.
Oh, I like that. That's got a good taste.
It's got good smells.
Yeah.
I wonder if they called it Loop. There it is, because when I sniffed it, the first thing I was like, that kind of smells like Fruit Loops to me.
Could be.
Wow, that does not smell like Fruit Loops to me at all.
No, I'm
Anyway.
getting like a high fruity smell from it.
Yeah, I'd say it's a fruity smell, but more citrusy. Not
On the
like
can,
Fruit
it
Loops.
says it got pineapples and tropical flavor.
Yeah.
Kind of like those other companies that have like put natural flavor into something. They got tropical flavor in this one. It's really fucking good. Like really good.
Like
Yeah.
CFD
Like
good.
so fucking good. It's certified fucking delicious.
It
I like
is.
this a
You
lot.
got it.
Wow.
Like a real lot.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised because, like, you hear double IPA, and this isn't what I would expect.
No, for an 8.1, it's rather smooth.
Yeah, like when I think of double IPA, I almost think almost like dry.
Now this is certified fucking delicious. This is really good. It won't take many of these for me to forget what's even going on in the day.
Okay.
So half of one.
Right, like 3 more sips, I'm fucking there.
Yeah. Awesome.
Danielle,
The rest of the episode, don't
yeah, I'm not even
don't,
involved.
don't hold it against them. Who knows what he'll say?
I would go with an 8.2. I like it. It smells good. It tastes good.
8.2.
Yeah.
That's high for you.
Yeah, because I like it.
That's high for you for not a dark beer.
Right.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
It must also be certified fucking delicious for you at this point.
I don't know where that line starts. I think that would start at
Starts
like
and
a
ends
9.
with me.
Oh.
So Nick, where are you putting it on a 1 in 10 scale?
I'm looking at about a 7.9.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very comparable to the previous one we just had.
You guys want to know where I'm going with it?
9.
Close.
10.
Like,
9.1.
Oh, okay.
This is fucking delicious. Certified fucking delicious, mind you. 9.1. And that is Tuckahoe Brewing. You can find them at Tuckahoe CO on Instagram and also at tuckahoebrewing.com. And I'm super excited when this is all over, this pandemic that's still going on, all this bullshit, to head down, meet Rob, meet the other brewers and the owners, and just have a nice podcast from their brewery. They also have a mug club, so above the bar. I don't know the exact number where they're at, but I guess you can buy a mug. Obviously, then you get discounted drinks all night while you're there. You got these like sweet, like old time tavern looking like mugs.
nice.
Are they all the same? Or are they all different?
They're all the same.
Sweet. Do you get your name on it?
It says Tuckahoe Brewing. It might just be you have to show proof or whatever it is. Maybe get an ID card. I don't know. You're part of the mug club, and then you get to drink from one of those badass mugs, and you get to be the cool cat in the bar.
Sweet.
So I think I know the answer to this question, But would you rather be visited by a ghost or an alien?
Well, I've been visited by a ghost, and the ghost I was visited by, and my sister, and this was, well, I don't know how old you guys are, but this was back in '67.
I wasn't
And
even a thought yet.
Same.
okay,
I was almost
my
a thought.
my sister and myself, I was probably 13, heard all kind of stuff, like footsteps coming up the steps, and but there's nobody there, and scratching in the walls, pounding on the walls, breathing in the walls, breathing in your ear. And my parents never ever believed us, because it only happened when they like to dance almost every Saturday night. They went out dancing, and so it always happened when they weren't home. And one night I invited a friend of mine over to spend the night, and we ordered a pizza and was watching TV. And all of a sudden, the back screen door opened up, footsteps came up behind us. A cold wind went around us. Footsteps went back to the door. Door opened back up and closed, but there was nobody there. So he immediately got up, called his mother, says, I need you to come pick me up. I'm out of here. And he never came. He never came back.
Oh my God.
But then this went on for 5 years. So
I would have left with him.
Yeah, he's smart.
yeah. So when we were leaving, my mother bought another house. It was the last incident, the last time to visit. My sister always claimed she's seen like a young girl would stand in her bedroom door and just stare at her. Every time
No way.
and her bedroom was right next to mine. I'd never seen the girl at that time. I would always see like a light, it's really weird, like a foggy light that I could see, like, and it would be like in front of her door. But I never seen the girl, but she said the girl was staring at her. And it wasn't until the night before we moved out of there that my sister, she's calling over to me, "Do you see her?" So when I finally looked for the light again, here she's in my room,
Oh.
and I'm looking right at her, and for some reason, so I knew we were moving. It's like I wasn't scared, It was like I finally got to meet you, But the next day when my parents were moving and the landlord came over for the security deposit or whatever it was, he said that he had to see us go and was surprised that we stayed as long as we did. My mother said, "Why is that?" And he says, "Well, because everybody claims there's a ghost here, and you're the first ones that haven't." And then my mother said, "Oh, my kids claim they seen her." He said, "Well, the young girl hung herself in 1899 in the attic, and that's the girl that's still here."
That would have been good knowledge before you moved in.
Well, my mother still didn't believe. Like, he's cracked. So it's like it would have took a brick to hit her to say there's something there. I mean, she just didn't believe it, or my dad. So, like, here's the thing that's really weird. It's like 30 years later, after the whole thing's done with, and we never told anybody because everybody thinks you're crazy. So 30 years later, my sister's working in her professional job, and she had a client come in, and he was moving, so she needed his old address and his new address, and the old address was the address that we grew up in, and, we lived in. And she says, "Oh, I lived there." She didn't say it's scary or anything like that. And he said, "Can I ask you a question? Was that house haunted?" And it like sent chills up her spine because, it brought back all the memories. And he said, "But was it violent?" She said, "No, it was never violent. And he said, "Oh, it's violent with us because, there was some, I guess, very hellish parties there, with biker parties and there." And he said they were very violent themselves, and there was knives being thrown off the counter with nobody there. A picture fell off the wall and hit the one guy in the head.
What the hell?
The couch would fly up with them on it, So he said, my sister said, "No, no, 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 nothing like that ever happened, to us anyway." Well, then just a few years ago, the house burnt down and the guy was inside of it died.
Oh.
So I went by the other day and I still get this, you get this feeling that even though there's nothing there, it's an empty lot. The driveway's not even there no more. And it's like, you just get this feeling, like a really, really strange feeling.
when you had actually been able to see the girl, did it appear as though she was, I guess, like an apparition type of thing, or did she
Yes.
look like she was also seeing you as well?
Looks like she was seeing me as well. I mean, there was never no talking. She never said nothing. She never communicated like that. It was just, I think what it was is after talking to a lot of other paranormal investigators, they always pick one or two people that they can relate to, or they can tell their story to, or communicate with. And I think my sister was primarily the target because they were like the same age, and I could see her, but you could almost like see through her. It was like a hologram type thing. And as quick as she was in, she was out, and that was the last encounter. But I think my uncle lived with us for a little bit while we lived there, and he had an experience with her. So in total, there was like 5 people total that had an experience. But my mother and dad, man, they never believed any of us. And that's what got me started in really uh, knowing there's something else out there.
It's interesting that they didn't believe after 5 other people, 5 people in total.
And that was my other thing, when I started podcasting, and I would talk to other paranormal investigators. I found out most of them are atheists or don't believe in moving the spirit on. Like, what are you moving on to? I mean, if you don't believe in heaven or hell, what are you moving the spirit on to? So they think when you get rid of a spirit or a demon, you're actually killing it. So you're not moving it on nowhere. Where I believe with a few others that you are moving it on. It hasn't moved on, or it's here to finish a story or whatever. Like a friend of mine passed away not long ago, and they claim he hung himself in his dad's garage. Well, his mother called me over, and I did an interview with her, and she was telling me and showing me pictures and things that happened in that house where she believes he didn't commit suicide, but he was actually murdered and hung in the garage. And after talking to her, I'm thinking maybe he was murdered, because his hands were tied behind his back.
Oh God.
And when I was at her house, she was showing me things on her phone that she had taken, taken pictures of. And he's in the picture. He's in the picture frame like a reflection. And there's nothing in that room to show his face there. So how's his reflection in the mirror? He's ringing the doorbell, and there's nobody out there. And when she says, "Vincent, stop that," the doorbell just stops. So I told her, what the priest told me years ago was, if you come across something that hasn't moved on yet, you can just say, it's okay to move on. It's okay to go. Because that's what they do. He just moves it on, moves the spirit on. She said, "Oh, no, 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 I don't want him moved. I enjoy him here." Now that was strange because he was my friend, and
So were you able to see the pictures that she had taken?
hmm
Oh wow.
yeah, I seen the pictures, and at first when I heard about him, I was skeptical, and when I got there and I actually seen the video and actually seen the pictures, I tend to side with her. She did bring in a couple psychics that uh, told her where he was found hanging wasn't the place where he was killed.
Oh.
Yeah. So and they both, without knowing each other, went back to one other corner of the garage to show that he was murdered there, but he was hung in the other corner. And so yeah, right. So I'm like, that kind of blew my mind, But you have to be very careful because I knew he was an addict. I knew he got hooked on the heroin. I knew he was in with a tough crowd, and you have to be careful on how far you want to go with this, And when you start accusing somebody of murder, she thinks she knows who did it. You have to be and she's had her life threatened. So you got to be careful on what you report and what you say. And I am very careful on some of the stories I get, some of the people that tell me certain things. They want to implicate some people, and you have to watch your own butt.
Yeah, because, innocent until proven guilty and all that kind of crap.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to me that you say that a lot of the people that you speak to um, who are atheists or whatever, and they think that it's just killing the demon or killing the ghost, but there's got to be an explanation as to how that energy even happens. I mean, wouldn't that
Right.
sway somebody one way or another?
You would think, but they have their own views, and I respect their view. Even I don't agree with it. I respect their view as investigators, and I've been on a couple investigations with people that I'll tell you what. There's a really good investigation crew out of Oklahoma paranormal investigators, and that's probably the most versatile paranormal crew I've ever come across. I mean, you have a person on their crew was a preacher, a pastor that's on the team, a psychic. I can't remember. It's an atheist, and their reasoning is a Buddhist, and the reasoning is you if you have a lot of different eyes and different ways of looking at a site that you go on, you have different angles looking at it, and if you can come together, that would be more of a conclusive evidence than saying just it's something that's like, say, if an atheist was to see it a certain way, then and a priest or pastor was to see it another way. The other two kind of bring them into perspective on how they see it.
Yeah, that would be an amazing team, I would think, to see all the angles there.
Right. So I did like a three part series just on them because they were so interesting. Then I had interviews with the all three of them.
So do they come up to like one certain point? Do they come together at some point, or do they always have mixed feelings, or
Both. I mean, sometimes they come together, and sometimes I imagine they don't. So, and that's one thing I used to use meters and video, and I basically I did one. Well, it's on my documentary, and it's a place in Pennsylvania. It's not far from where I live, and it's called Hogback Bridge, and you can research that one as well. But the Hogback Bridge is on Hogback Road in Hermitage, PA, and I was given the story. Well, when I was looking for stories, I was given 3 stories from this bridge, 3 different stories, and so it piqued my curiosity to get there and then check it out. So it's only like maybe 30 miles from my house. So I drove out there and by myself, and I checked out the area. And the legend is there was a young girl there that was raped and murdered under the bridge. And what's really weird is you go down Hogback Road, and it's like a regular residential area. And then you come to a point where there's a sign that says maintenance vehicles not allowed beyond this point because you're going down into a valley, like a one lane road that led to an old wooden bridge. Kind of really spooky down there. I mean, you could really sense there's something happened there. So I went to I'm going to go ahead and do this one. I hired a couple actors, and I remember the girl, and she's an actress now, and Kelly Cook, and she said, "I'll do it. I'd love to do it." But I want to have. And she knew the male actor was coming that was supposed to drive the car. Because what happens in all 3 of the stories, you drive up to the bridge, and your car dies on the bridge, and this young girl comes out from under the bridge with like a lantern to your car. And then when you go, and then your car will start when you go to drive off. She's in the backseat of your car. That's the legend. So when I had the actors show up, I was the young girl that played the part. She says, "I know this bridge. I know the history of this bridge. I want to have a bodyguard if you're under the bridge for me." Because she was petrified, you know. So I says, no problem. Well, what happened was my male actor didn't show up, and I had the bodyguard under the bridge. Actually, my bodyguard was my partner, the big dude I told you about earlier. He
That's a good sized bodyguard.
so he was going to stay under the bridge. Well, now he's forced to play the part of the guy, because the guy really was no speaking part. He was just to drive the car down. But I have to be in the car, up out of the sunroof with my camera, coming down to her, because it left her by herself down on the bridge. But she's only there for maybe, I'm going to say 2 minutes. But I got down there, and she's just standing on the bridge. As soon as we were done, she says, "I want out of here now." I mean, like right now. Well, I told my partner, "Go ahead and take her up. I want to get a few more shots down here and get down into the woods and angle back up to the bridge and get my scenery, and then I figured they'd come back and pick me up." Well, he never came back. He just drove up the hill thinking, "I'm going to walk up this hill," with all this equipment, which I end up doing. During this taping of the incident, I didn't feel nothing or see nothing. I'm thinking, okay. I mean, my car didn't shut off. I mean, nothing was going along with the legend, but it was walking from the bridge that I'm pushed from behind, where my ear's getting flicked. I'm breathing in my ear, and then and I'm thinking, okay, your mind's acting up on you, and then I'm pushed again. I mean, it's a solid push, and so I got up out of there, and then you wouldn't believe the amount of response I got off the Hogback Bridge. So it's still going on. They rebuilt the bridge. They lowered the hill. It's not the same as it used to be, but there's still, what I understand, it's still happening today. If you drive your car up, your car will stop, and it has to be after midnight, like 5 minutes after midnight. So I did try that, and it didn't work with me. But my buddy just contacted me not long ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and said he tried it and it did work for him. The car died, and she wasn't in the backseat of his car. But the car did die.
I was going to ask.
He did see the light come up from the tunnel, or from the bridge.
Shit! If somebody's sitting in the backseat of my car, I'm not even going to be playing with that. I'm not even. No way am I even.
I'm leaving the car.
Yeah, no.
You've acquired my car. Congratulations.
Yeah, I wouldn't even go that way.
I think I took my wife on a couple of the things. She said, no. She said, "You're getting too close to the demon side." Most of it was just a spirit that needed to be moved on. But a lot of it, and when I started getting more and more into the demon side of it, I kind of backed off, because you can get trapped into that. And
it's probably what they want. The demon, that is.
I mean, it all depends some people don't believe, like my son-in-law, he doesn't believe in it. I mean, a ghost would have to come up and kick him in the ass. He does not believe whatsoever in any of that, But, and then that's cool, because when I did a couple at the film festivals, and I talked to a couple seminars, I found that a lot of people that didn't believe in ghosts or spirits or any of that, they're the ones that stuck around and asked the most questions. It's like your curiosity is there, and I don't force anybody to believe or not to believe. It's usually, if it happened to you, you're going to believe.
I don't know. I mean, I believe. I'm not sure, exactly what's out there.
And I got a call for seances too. It's like, you think about all these spirits and demons, but there's orbs, there's poltergeist, there's Bigfoot, there's and I think what bothers me the most is the ones that the phantom phone calls. That's the one where you haven't talked to your brother or something in 5 years, and your brother calls you that night and apologizes for everything, and tells you he loves you, and he hopes that he's sorry he didn't talk to you for all these years, and so you really feel good about that, and you find out he died like 7 hours ago. And you're only talking about things that you and your brother would know, or you and your sister. And I get quite a few of those too. I mean, it's like, and that's
yes, that's some weird stuff right there.
That happened to my grandmother. Remember I told you the story? She was having her, I don't know what number baby, but she was in a snowstorm, scared to death. Her father came to her and she assumed it was her father. She was waiting on, way back in the day, it was really a long time ago, waiting on, I guess somebody to bring her to the hospital. She was laying there and her father came to her, said everything was going to be fine, told her exactly how everything was going to pan out, and it did. And then she found out that he passed.
I get a lot of that. I mean, or you talk to your mother or your grandmother, or you still get visits, or I mean, and so I was asking one of my recent guests. I says, where do you fit like Bigfoot in the because oh yeah, paranormal is anything that's you can't explain. I mean, and what's really weird. He asked me a question. He has his own radio show podcast, and he said, and he was a guest on my show, and I asked, and he said, "You don't mind me asking you a question?" It kind of threw me off for a minute. I says, "Oh no, go ahead." And he says, "Do you think that UFOs and Bigfoot are connected?" I was like, I never in my years have ever even thought about that. But just think about it, because if you look at all these UFO sightings and you check out the Bigfoot sightings, they're almost in the same area. And a lot of times the UFO is coming out of the water and the footprints are around that pond or lake where that UFO lands. I never thought about that,
I never thought about that either.
but I really know how to answer that, because I get Bigfoot stories, I get UFO stories, but never got the two, linked together.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Could all be the same type of energy.
And that really put me silent for a couple minutes. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about it now. I just can't. I don't know. I want to say no, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but like it could be because you don't know what an alien looks like.
Yeah, I don't know either way.
An alien could look like a Bigfoot.
Right.
Because if Bigfoot doesn't look like anything that we know
as far as you know.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and even I have a friend of mine who claimed he's seen Bigfoot, in Alaska, probably about 10 years ago. And, he's one of those hunting expeditions where they drop you off by water boat or water plane, and you're dropped off on an island, and you're there for 2 weeks. And then the plane comes back 2 weeks later and picks you up and takes you back to civilization. So you're off grid for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And the only thing, so you have to survive yourself. I mean, he asked me if I wanted to go. It's like $8,000 for. I said, no, I don't have that money to go. And I didn't
that's
go.
That's a good deal. You give them 8,000, and they're
then
like,
you get nothing, no amenities.
They're like, we'll see you later.
But you think about it, you're traveling by plane. You fly from the United States to, I think it's Winnipeg. Then you go from Winnipeg to Anchorage, and you go from Anchorage to. So there's almost like 3 plane rides, and then you're there, three plane rides back. But the only thing you have really with you is this whatever canned food you have and some water. There's supposedly there's a well on site, but there's no electricity, and whatever food you get, you either catch it by fishing, which is plenty of fish, or you shoot it. And the very first night they were there, they were told, by the tour guide that dropped them off, do not leave any open food outside, because the bear or whatever, they'll come in. It's like a smorgasbord, and they were out fishing, and they came back, and the bear had got inside the cabin and just destroyed everything they had. So now they have to really hunt their food, and there was I think the night before they left, that he was outside, and he fell asleep by the campfire when he said it was like, I hate to say, like baby Bigfoot grabbed his grabbed his foot, and was trying to pull him. And when he looked up, it was like a little Bigfoot, but Mama was right there too. And when his buddy came out, his buddy fired a shotgun in the air towards their direction. Didn't want to hit my buddy, so the two ran off into the woods. and they were standing there like, how do we explain this? You know, so they just didn't say nothing. And I've got a few of those calls too that almost identical stories.
Well, at least he shot the shotgun instead of like pulled out his phone, took a video. Your other buddy's dead.
Right. My question always was if Bigfoot was out there, then why don't we have any skeletal remains? And this person was on my show that's a Bigfoot hunter told me that because their carcass would be ate. It's just like any other wild animal. You would eat the it'd be gone. There would be nothing. There have been some bones found, but as far as like a complete Bigfoot scarlet skeletal remains, he had a pretty good explanation for it.
I guess I could see that.
But I never came across that. But the show's wide open for anybody that has a story, and paranormal. But my most interesting ones I think, are always the Native American spirits. That's always been because almost everybody I talk to, something comes back to the Native American.
Meaning that somebody sees them from them, or they see things, they see apparitions.
Well, like Native Americans always were. I remember as a kid, I went to when we were on vacation, we stopped at an Indian village, and this old Indian was on the front porch, and he was whittling something, and then all of a sudden he was drinking some coffee, and he was bringing his spoon up out of the coffee and letting it drip back down into the coffee, like maybe a foot above the coffee cup. And I'm like, why are you doing that? He saw I'm getting the evil spirits out of the coffee, because everything that's living, a coffee bean, anything that's living has evil spirits, and you want to remove those spirits. So I was on a recent, I shouldn't say recent, about a year ago. It was a place in Pennsylvania, and they built this golf course over a burial ground, an Indian burial ground. And
That's not good.
so you would, instead of removing the bones or the bodies, they just, for money purposes, it just built the golf course over the burial ground.
Oh man.
And so there is a lot of activity there. And it's just almost everything I come across is like somehow a Native American Indian is somehow involved in that. I don't know how to put it. I don't know if you ever watched what the heck's the name of the show? It just came out. It's on the History Channel. Skinwalker Ranch. And that's also they brought out a Native American to pray over the land, because they believe when you destroy Earth, you're going to disrupt the spirits, And so here we go again. We got the Native American Indians with the evil spirits, and how the Earth is sacred, especially bodies that's in the Earth,
Yeah, I had a friend. He was Native American, but they happened to move out this way to the East Coast, and his mother would always see ghosts. And I didn't know that it was part of his culture. I didn't know anything about it until one day we're sitting in my den in my mother's house, and he's like, there's a lot of them today. And I was like, what? And he said something to that effect. I don't remember exactly. He's like, you don't see that? I was like, no. And apparently he had seen like people just walking through my mother's like hallway. And he explained to me that it was natural. It was something that he sees all the time.
Yeah, it's always was curious, like how one thing always led to another. Like, I'm talking about Skinwalker Ranch. That's on The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. That's the name of it. It's on History Channel. And I was talking to that pilot, F-18 pilot, the Hornet pilot, and he was telling me he had a dogfight with a UFO over Skinwalker Ridge, and that's what led me to the Skinwalker Ranch miniseries, because Skinwalker Ridge is in Skinwalker Ranch, and it's based on UFOs, and you have a person from NASA that's involved there, scientists that's involved, and trying to figure out why all this activity is coming from this ranch in Utah, you know. And that's another thing too, like talking to different people all around the world is how something that happens in my neck of the woods is the same thing that's happening in Australia. It's no different, you know.
Right. It's just the earth. I don't think we've watched Skinwalker Ranch because I feel like it's it's going to be a disappointment. Like they'll never find anything that we can tangibly see. But maybe I'll pick it up now.
It really opens your thoughts on how maybe it might have been, but and how people that lived there before uh, investigated the ranch and all the weird activities. And like they said, every time you dig, here we go back to the Indians again. When you dig into the ground, you're disturbing the spirits, and that's when all the weird shit would happen is after you dug. It might not be right away, but how can you explain the cattle that's on that uh, part of the ranch are dissected, heads cut off, and there's no blood to be found? The bodies of the cattle are completely sucked dry of the blood. Yet when you had another cow on that ranch, they brought it in to experiment. The cow was dead, and when when the veterinarian came in to do an autopsy on the cow, how it died, they said it died of stress. Something there was so stressful that the heart of the cow exploded. But just that little bit of dissecting that cow, there's blood everywhere. So you would have some type of blood if you cut a head off of a cow or the head's missing. Where's the blood?
Where's the traces? Yeah.
There should be a
Well,
significant
yeah,
amount of
I
blood.
mean, so where's the blood at? I mean, so there's a lot of interesting things that's on there, you know. And at the same time, they have cameras everywhere. So a lot of times the batteries will stop working. That's happened to me a few times too. Is I'll tape something, and my batteries are both. I have 2 or 3 cameras, and all 3 are dead. Sometimes that happens. So you don't know what type of force that is that's killing that battery power. And that's the same thing there. But they did catch a UFO flying over about 2 to 3,000 miles an hour at the same time that the cow looked up to the sky. It's very interesting to
I think they touch on the Skinwalker Ranch also from Project Blue Book. Did you ever see that show?
right. And that was another great show, again, we're talking the guy that I talked to, the pilot, brought back Project Blue Book. He brought back Area 51 and Hangar 18 at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Supposedly that's where all the aliens material that's collected, bodies, crafts, is all housed at area at the Hangar 18.
Hangar 18, yeah.
And I've been there, and it's still off limits. I mean, years later. How many years ago is that? And it's still 1948 around there, and it's still off limits.
Well, I mean, it's still a military base, right?
It's a military base. It's classified, and I live maybe 5 miles from a military base, and they were thinking about moving the stuff from Hangar 18 to my area. Matter of fact, it's also on the radar for the government right now. It's looking at making a nuclear underground site. Excuse me, Camp Garfield. And it's only like maybe 5 miles away from me. A huge site, and
Sounds like it's time to move.
I know. Like, how do you even know this information, and how do how would that be?
If you look at the government's looking at 3 sites right now to make a because everything right now for our underground missile silos are out west, so they want to move a couple on the East Coast so they can have a better protection. That's a thought anyway. And our area is in competition, I believe, with a spot in New York. So I don't know how that's going. We were still in the running as of January, so I don't know what's going on right now.
Let's put it this way: you probably don't want it near you. So,
Well, I was talking to somebody I know and that's the base there is a National Guard post, and I was talking to somebody at our local Dairy Queen not long ago, and the military shows up and they're having their ice cream cones, and I brought that up. I says, "Is there any truth about that becoming a nuclear underground base there?" And they said, "Oh yeah, and I said, "Oh man," and I like you said, maybe it's time to move.
Yeah.
He goes, "Dude, it doesn't matter if we're hit, you're only gone a tenth of a second more than somebody's gone in Buffalo, New York, or Cincinnati. So, the range is so huge. He says, it doesn't matter. You know, you'd have to live basically in the middle of the country somewhere.
Well, and then
Now,
they'll
that's
be
kind of
gone
scary.
too. Yeah,
That
no,
is scary.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's already underground tunnels everywhere. We don't even know about them.
Neither really. That's another thing is so many carols. So I don't know what to believe from the government because everything is secret. Everything's so it's just a secret. And I understand they got to keep some things from uh, national security, but when you have, as in the case in our area in Trumbull County in 1994 with these UFOs, you have 10 law enforcement counties chasing these, well, they said there was 3 of them, chasing these objects. You have the 911 dispatcher there. You have 2 local news reporters there. And yet it's not on the TV. It's not on the radio. Everything is kept quiet. I got a hold of the dispatcher that she's a friend of mine on Facebook. I asked her to be on the show and she refused. But even you're talking about what, 94 to now, and they still don't want to talk about it. And what's the secret? I mean, what are they hiding that? And again, it was over a military base. And usually all these sightings are over a military base.
Right.
Or
And that's the
with
thing.
hmm And you would think, well, is it our own military that's doing secret exercises? And by talking to the pilot, he kind of cleared that up for me. Like we couldn't survive that. We couldn't survive a 6,000 mile an hour craft plunging 80,000 feet.
Well, if you look at it on the other spectrum of that is maybe it's not the military, maybe they're just watching our military because, they're worried.
Well, like he said, they were doing their maneuvers and the thing would go right in between them like they're standing still, and they're doing a Mach 3 speed. And the thing goes right between them like they're standing still, and then it would turn around and be right behind them. It would zigzag, stop, go up, down, and there was just no way of locking it in. And I believe the one that was actually found in Roswell they say it maybe was struck by lightning. That's the only thing that brought it down. That's the
It was an act of God.
That's the only
Right.
one that actually interests me to no end, the Roswell case.
Mm-hmm. And there again, I knew a guy, and it's so weird. I've come across over the years people that I've known that are somehow, some way connected to something. And he lived next to my sister-in-law in Clearwater, St. Petersburg, Florida. And he worked on the Roswell base during this time, and he refused even to this until he's gone now. He passed away, but he refused up until the time he died. He would never talk about what he knew.
Why? I would love to talk about it if I
Well,
were
he
there.
wasn't, and what was strange was he was always taken care of by the Air Force until he died. I mean, they took care of everything for him. So evidently he must have been really, really important or had a lot of information. But I said one night, and he loved to drink his scotch, I remember one night, if I get him drunk enough, I can get him to talk, and he just finally said one night, if I was to tell you what I know, I would have to kill you. And he was older then, and the more I think about it, I think I'm back on that. It's like, well, maybe he was just, joking around or whatever. But and then you would see the military pull into his driveway, and he always took care of him, made sure his groceries were up to par in his house. And I don't know anybody else at the military does that too.
I've never even heard of such a thing.
No, I mean, and he said he was a chemist or something of that sort, and at Roswell, and he wasn't there. He was in the Air Force, but he was more in the technical field, and he knew about the craft. He knew about but he would never talk about if he's seen it or where it's at.
I just want to touch that material. I mean, you've obviously read upon it, and you ever hear about like what they think the craft was made of? The material that they found at the scene was like as thin as like thinner than foil, even.
He said that. He said there was material that was thinner than, say, aluminum foil, and but it was of a material that was of an unknown origin.
Right.
So you couldn't pinpoint it to be aluminum. You couldn't pinpoint it to be mercury or anything, lead or copper. I mean, it was something they have never come across.
Yeah, and yet they hit it with sledgehammers, and it wasn't. It was indestructible.
Exactly. Hmm.
That's crazy. I just want some tangible evidence.
You're not allowed.
That's why that's why I like it by my podcast. I try to make it to where it's there's no phony shit on here. So if you're going to come on the show, I want to at least you have to believe in yourself and believe in what you're doing and like what you're doing and not. And I think it's really what hurts the paranormal field is people out there that put fake UFOs up, and there's a bunch of it. Or especially with in today's world, what you could even do on your phone and photography to make something look at 3D, different images, make it look like there's a UFO flying over New York City when it was just actually a pie pan that they 3D'd in a Adobe Photoshop. And that stuff happens. Same with Bigfoot. People out there put big prints in the mud and then dress up like big gorillas and scare people. And that's what hurts the field, is the fake stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
then you don't know what to believe. Like right now, I'm literally watching in a watch party on Facebook that it's supposedly live, being watched by 15,000 people. That it looks to be 2, 4, 6 UFOs flying over Pocatello, Idaho, which is pretty interesting. But I mean, who the hell knows if that's even true?
Right. But I do take the word from a pilot, from a F-18 pilot, because his story, what he's telling me, came out exactly what I talked to another person I know that actually works at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And he also will refuse to even talk about Hangar 18 for security clearance purposes or whatever. So when I did that UFO 4-part series over our county, by law you can rebroadcast 911 calls. I mean, that's not illegal, but for you, if it's classified, you can't touch it. And I think what happened with the Art Bell show was a syndicated coast to coast show. He actually ran an episode, ran that UFOs over Trumbull County. He ran that as a classified, and he wasn't supposed to do that. So when people recorded his show, and I got the tape, that's how I got the tapes of the 911 calls. But even though I knew about the story because it's over my county, and I knew people that work for law enforcement that chase these things, I already knew a little bit about the story. But for me to get a hold of those 911 calls was awesome. And when you have people, citizens, filming and taping UFOs in the sky, you have law enforcement chasing the same thing that they're taping. Over 100 and some calls in 3-day period. You have the news media there, and yet it's called a weather balloon. So that's just it just blows my mind.
It blows my mind only because why are they just flying around being menacing? Like why can't they just, well, maybe they have no way of, exposing themselves or, letting us know why they're there.
And that's another question too. I have that question as well. And so far, as far as I know, they have not shot any plane out of the sky. they haven't intentionally attacked any city or killed any people. I mean, as far as I know, and when I was doing my Ghost in the Valley and asking for stories, I got a couple. I remember a guy called me because I gave my phone number out there for him to call, and it was late at night, and the guy called me and says, "Hey, would you mind using my UFO story?" I said, "Sure." I mean, what happened? So he said a UFO picked him up, took him up inside the aircraft and inside the spaceship, and they drank Budweiser beer, got him drunk,
Nice.
dropped him back in his pickup truck, and he got picked up for DUI, and the cops did not believe him. So it's like, I don't think that's going to make the documentary.
Budweiser specifically.
Yeah, he named the Budweiser.
Yeah.
So I took my phone number off the site. So I said, okay, just email me or
Yeah, that way
call
you
or
can
text.
pre-read a little bit of the story prior to us finding out he's getting drunk with Budweiser.
Mm-hmm. So where are you located at?
Jersey.
New Jersey, and
right on the coast.
So you should have, and according to him, you have some activity up off your coast.
Cool. What, we have activity here?
You have activity off of the New Jersey coast, yes.
Really? And
matter of fact, yeah, you have quite a bit of activity off the New Jersey coast recently.
recently,
And that was according to him, because he's still very active in the UFO sightings over the East Coast, mainly the East Coast between New York or New Jersey, New York, all the way down to Florida. So the whole East Coast and Jersey was a hot spot. I remember him telling me that.
damn, and I look up into the night sky quite often, just like,
And for some reason, it's been more active lately, and I don't know what's going on. But with the Pentagon, I think that might be part of the reason why the Pentagon and the State Department released they declassified a lot of the recent UFO sightings, because if you got a lot of people filming or taping with their, I can't use the word tape, my song gets pissed off when I say tape. What are you taping with that on your cell phone? when you record off your cell phone to get these images, and you've got 1,000 people getting the same thing, you can't possibly say, well, there's nothing there.
Yeah, it's hard to call it a weather balloon after X amount of people say or videotape it.
Right. I mean, how do you? I mean, have you ever seen a weather balloon go at 6,000 miles an hour and can maneuver like an acrobat? I mean, yeah.
I'm not even certain I've ever seen a weather balloon.
Yeah, I was going to say, I could probably say none of us have ever probably seen a weather balloon.
I've seen one weather balloon, and it was just a balloon, like a blimp type
Yeah,
of
they're
thing.
they're big, they're white, right? Like typically.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you can get a glare off of it in the sky, and it could pass as an object in the sky.
Right. Anything could be glared. Yeah, but I mean, the movement is what's so spectacular, and then also the lights.
Well, the lights, and also when you're playing with F-18 fighter pilots,
Right.
I don't think the balloon will do that. That's just my opinion, so you got to call it like it is,
I want to say that, perhaps anybody in the military, especially Air Force, knows way more than they let on. And when they see them, they're not exactly as, scared as they should be. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when you're looking at those Pentagon, when they released the 2 or the 3 videos, those people, they were like laughing. And I'm not certain if it was like a laughter of worried laughter, but I don't know. They just didn't seem shocked.
Well, you're always classified as being like crazy, so you didn't see. And the first thing you think about when you think about a UFO is little green men or a Martian or something like that. And and it could be anything really. And who's to say, with as big as our solar system is, there's something else out there. I remember a few years ago, and I went to the radio towers in West Virginia, and I asked a question. And you got the tour of the where all the dishes were. I mean, some of these dishes are the size of 2 football fields, and they're huge, and they can get like sound waves deep in space of an old TV show or of FDR giving a presidential speech. It's all these sound waves are floating around out there. And I said, well, have you ever come across anything that's an alien like unidentified voice? And he says, oh yeah, we have a special satellite just for that, and it's just for trying, and we have communicated with the beyond, so that was something, that we have something that's by the government, that we are tracking unidentified or communication with unidentified people or whatever they are.
So communicating in what way? In a wording way, or is it math, or what are we doing?
It'll be sound waves. They can do sound waves. It was in like a Morse code type of communication. It was, and they would sometimes it would take him, like they said, it took them almost 9 months on one just to decipher one code. And then they went back and did it again, and they got another response. So it was like they can communicate, but it's not with like the English language.
Right.
So you don't know how to communicate. Could it be a sound wave for us, or but they are communicating, he says.
Because they'd have to assimilate it to, I mean, even just not, if you're thinking that they're not even seeing us or seeing our culture or anything like that, they'd have to assimilate it somehow. How would you even do that? Like if I had no knowledge, it's kind of like you're up in your head. What are you sending out there?
Right, and it's just stuff like that fascinates me. That there's something else out there. The government knows about it, and we stayed at a hotel. Let's just say it's a motel. It's in Cass, West Virginia, is where the satellites or the radio towers are. And for a 5-mile radius, there's no, like in our motel, there's no TV, no cell phone service. So there's no radio signals that you can have in that area. And that was if you're not used to talking to your significant other, you're in trouble, because there's no TV, no cell phones, or
Boring.
right. So yeah, if you ever get a chance to check out that's really interesting to go there, Cass, West Virginia, and
Put it on our agenda.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's awesome.
So, Al, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Oh, they can find me at the Ghost in the Valley podcast. It's on Apple or any place else, Spotify, that you get your podcast downloads or streaming. I'm on every other Tuesday. And if you have a story to share, you can contact me at cooley54@gmail.com.
And as always, you can find us at thebeerlatteshow.com or on Facebook and Instagram, or Beer Latte at Twitter. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. This drip all on my body, soaking wet the Sani. Looking like a walking lick, yeah, you can tell I'm grinding.